go over the proper procedure on how to test your blood glucose levels using a diabetic blood glucose meter. What you're going to need to do for step number 1 is wash your hands, warm water with soap, and make sure they're rinsed properly. Next, you're going to want to set up all the supplies you're going to need. So what I've got here in front of me is a sharps container for both my strips as well as my lancets, my diabetes meter strips that are specific to my meter. I have my meter. Today I'll be using the Byern Contour Next. Although I'm using a specific meter, all meters are very similar, and all these techniques I'm showing you today are the same for all different types of meters. You're also going to need your lancing device, which should have come with your meter, as well as your lancets, which are little needles that fit specifically to your lancing device. Also I have with me is my calendar book that is going to allow me to record my number that I'm taking right now, as well as record if this is before a meal or after a meal, and then just a tissue just to clean up after I do the test. So let's begin. So I have my freshly washed hands thoroughly rinsed. The next step is to get my lancing device ready. With this lancing device, it comes with the Byern Next meter. You just need to pop the top off. I just kind of snapped it off like that. And you'll see there's a round piece in the middle. That's where the lancet is going to go. So I'm going to take one of my lancets, and you can see with the lancet there's a round part with these ones and a bottom part. So I take this part, I push it down into it, and you'll hear it click, as well as you'll feel the lancet's not able to move. It's sturdy in position, and again the round top is out. Now I'm going to take this round piece with my fingers and twist it. And what this is going to do is it's going to expose the needle that we're going to need in order to get the blood test out of the finger. I want to take this round piece and save it for later, so I'm just going to set it right here where I can see it and find it later. We're going to put the top back on, being very cautious not to poke ourselves with the needle that's now exposed. There, and you heard a click and it's back in place. With this lancing device, you can change the depth at which the needle is going to poke the finger. So as I twist it, you can see how there's more space between the head and the body of the lancing device. That means it's going to be a shallower poke. Some people can get away with this if they have very, fine skin, if they don't have a lot of calluses on their fingers. Other people will have to move it back or even back further, depending on how callous their skin is. The best thing to do is the first couple of times you test, you'll have to play around with it a bit. Once you have it set and it's working for you, I just would recommend to keep it in that same position. I know for myself, I don't have to go with the deepest, but I do have to stay pretty deep in order to get a proper blood test. Lancing device is all ready to go. The next thing I need to do is get my meter ready. So this is the Byern Contour Next meter. We have the screen up here, which is going to show us all the information we need digitally. We have a couple buttons here. We have an OK button, an up and down button for some other features of the meter that I'm not going to go over today. The biggest thing we just need to know is about the screen up top, and then the bottom is where the strip is going to go. Speaking of strips, I need to get one out to get ready for the test. So I pop it open, and I have my strip. You'll notice with most strips, it's easy to tell which end goes into the meter. There'll be kind of a computer chip looking top. That end goes into the meter. At the other end, on these strips, there's a fine little line, and that's going to show us where we have to apply the blood test. On the other side of the strip, there are no images, there's no computer chip, so we know we want it facing this way when we put it into the meter. So I take my meter, I take the computer chip end of the strip, and I place it into the meter. And I place it until it won't go any further, and my meter beeped saying that it recognizes the strip. You'll see my meter come on, and it's asking me to apply blood, showing also an image of a blood drop in a strip. My meter is now ready. The best place to poke is, if you can see my hands here, is on the sides of your fingers, not actually on the fingertips, because we're mostly callous there and it can be quite painful. So I always say put your hands together, and wherever you can see along the sides of your fingers is where to poke. I usually shoot for anywhere around here. Always remember to change around which finger you're poking and where you're poking it to lessen the chances of developing calluses from the testing. So I've got my spot on my finger. I'm gonna press my lancing device hard beside it and press down on the button. Now what I have to do is kind of milk the blood drop so I can get enough for the test. So I think I've got a pretty nice drop there. So I'm gonna take my meter, and that little strip I mentioned earlier about where the blood goes, I'm just gonna have to touch it to the blood drop and it'll do the rest of the work. So I just touch it there. And now my meter is asking when I last ate. Is this fasting, before a meal, or after meal? Now the last time I ate was about 2 hours ago, so this is gonna be after a meal. So I go down to after meal, and I press OK. We also have to get rid of the lancet out of the lancing device. You should change the lancet in your lancing device every time you test, and if you don't get enough blood the first time around and have to poke yourself again, change the lancet. The reason for this is each time you poke yourself, a little bit of blood, a little bit of bacteria can get on that, and if we keep reusing it, it's a chance for infection, as well as it dulls the little needle there, and it can be much more painful every time you go to do the test. So to get rid of the lancet out of the lancing device, we want to pop it open again, just from the top, so I'm just gonna, like that. Be careful of the sharp end. We're gonna want to take that top of the lancet that we saved, and I'm gonna wanna poke it into that, so just press it down. This just makes sure that that sharp end is now covered and there's no chance of repoking ourselves. Now I'm gonna go over to my sharp spin, and what I do is I hold this over top my sharp spin, hold down this button, and pull up on this, and it'll release it into my sharp spin. So I'm just gonna go do that right now.